Good morning. We're going to start today by working on one of the problems that I've come up against a couple of times and I just don't like it. If you've made a sales invoice, then you've probably seen that the address can take a lot of space. In this case, I've got the street address, the city, the state, something called a PIN, which is really a zip code. It's a postal index number, if you were wondering, the country, and then I don't really need phone and fax and email on that invoice. So I'm going to show you how you can go in and change this sort of default template. All right. So it's going to start by going to our old friend Setup, and we're going to go into the Setup module, and under Printing, which is what we're trying to do here, there's something called the Address Template. Now, stay with me here. This is a two-step thing. So we're going to start. We already chose United States earlier, but here's the format that's being used, and it's a combination of something called Jinja templating, and there's sort of some HTML style stuff in here. We can go in and do sort of whatever we want because here's the default. We can always get back to the basics just by picking this up right here, copy it, paste it back in, and we can get back to the default. But in this case, you see it's got address line 1, and then it's got this break. This is HTML code. It's got a break. Well, I want the first address line to be there and to have a break, and then it says if there's a second address line, then print that field and then put another break in, and that makes sense. And then there's an end if on there so that it says if it's not there, stop that operation. And that's fine because I'd want the first address line on one line and then a break, and then the second address line and then a break. And then the city, but I don't necessarily want another break after the city. I'd be happy if it was city, comma, state, whatever. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to replace that break with a comma and a space. And that means that it should then go from there to the state, and then it's going to have a break, and then it's going to put in this big zip code thing. And again, I don't really need that, so I'm going to take out that break. I'm going to put in a couple of spaces there to capture the zip code, which again, in the software, that's called a PIN code because it's sort of international software, so it's a postal identifying number or postal index number. And all I really want to do now is pick up that PIN code. So if it's there, I don't need to call it a PIN. I can take that out, and now it's going to come up after that state thing, and then it's going to display if it's there. And then I get to a place where I have a choice. Do I want to show the country or not? In this case, I'm going to leave it in, but I would certainly understand if you wanted to take it out. And then you would have this break here, and then you could take the country out and just remove that there. But I'm also going to come back and say that I don't need the phone or the fax or the email of the customer. I know them. I'm sending them this email. So I'm going to go ahead and come in and take out everything up to the country and just remove all of that. And then I'm going to save that template. All right. Now, if it's already, one of the problems here is if you've already created the invoice, we want to have integrity in that invoice. So it's going to stay with whatever format you use when you create that invoice, it's going to stay with it. In this case, we want to create a new invoice to see if this is going to work going forward. So we'll come over here and we'll create a new invoice, and I'm going to bill myself another $1 for this great job that I've just done here, and let's call it a consulting project. The quantity of 1, I'll give myself a special price on all of that, and I will save it. And then I can come up to here and I can say, what does it look like? And you can see I got a much cleaner address field in that whole thing. I hope that works for you. Thanks.